Start of the pandemic, sold off their kegs, thinking they'd be able to buy them back, and now are screwed on kegs. Have you heard anything like related to that? Because that sounds insane to me.
I haven't heard anything specific like that. I'd be pretty surprised if that were the case. But I mean, I guess there is, limited free space in a brewery, and to suddenly have, 90% of your keg stock sitting in the warehouse at one time instead of out at a bar on lines, that could be pretty overwhelming. So I could see why you might need to reduce your capacity there.
Google says a green mango is unripe. So chalk one up for me
It's
this
just
time.
unripe. All
Just
right,
unripe,
congratulations. Yeah, good for you.
My random guess out of nowhere just completely nailed it. Let's move into shiny things. This one I have had. I don't think I'd ever had vibrant things before, but I have had shiny things. And I remember this very fondly. So you said this came out of the Simple Things. What year are we talking about with kind of the launch of shiny things and vibrant things, and are there more things? I'm going to get really sick of saying things very quickly.
No, that's okay. So as I said, Shiny Things was the first one with for the Pilsner, and it launched maybe three-ish years ago. The thing with Steel and Oak overall is that they hadn't ever brewed core lineup IPA until Shiny Things came around, and that was probably 5-6 years into their history. Their first IPA overall, actually, that they released publicly was a collab with Degard. So it was
cool.
both of their first IPAs, yeah. So it's called The Suburbs. And
Nope, I think we lost. Nope, we have officially lost Grant.
That's a pretty good pick.
Yep, and that's how we lost Grant. Well, his connection was pretty rough to begin with. It was not great from the start. So hopefully when he comes back stronger. So I'll cover for a bit here. What do I think of it? So I have had this before. It's something that we've carried intermittently in the store. It's not something we've had all the time. I like how juicy this is without being just over the top New England style. Alcohol's at 6, which is right where it should be. And yeah, it still has that nice bitterness. It still has that nice refreshing backbone. It still has some I don't want to say elegance, because elegance is the wrong word, but that extra little hit of bitterness that this has that some don't kind of gives it it makes it something I want to keep coming back to. One of the things that I've, discovered as patios have opened back up, and all of a sudden everybody and their dog has a Hazy IPA on tap now. Thanks, COVID, for that at least. And I start drinking, pitchers and pints of things like New England IPAs. Hi Skype noise.
Yeah.
Hey, Grant's back, and hey, his video's better. There we go.
or could you see me just weirdly freezing, going, "Oh my God, can they see me still?"
No, you completely crashed.
Wow.
And disappeared. And but before that, for the whole time, you've been on about a 3/4 of a second to second delay on your voice versus your face. So it hasn't been great.
I could see that on the video, yeah.
Yeah, but it's better now, so we'll roll with this. So Shiny Things, we just kind of got into your introduction of it. We just discussed their first IPA being a collab with Degard called The Suburbs, and then the video died.
So they had kind of realized that in order it became necessary to relevant to them that they needed to have an IPA in the core series, and so at that point it became several years worth of actually workshopping a recipe until they found that one that was the right one for them. Because as I said, Steel and Oak above all else really believes in that quality and consistency. They don't want to just jump into the hazy IPAs because it's a trend. They want to make sure that they are releasing the right product for the brewery. And so that right product eventually ended up being the Shiny Things IPA.
Which I really like. This is a solid beer. I've thought so for a while. Craig, you kind of nailed this. I would also call this kind of a no-coast IPA. It's got a little too much bitterness for most New Englands. It's a little too hazy for most West Coasts. It's kind of the third wave. We're just making an IPA. We're going to take the best of the East, best of the West style, and I like it for that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of it. What really does it for making it that, giving it that West Coast semblance, in my eyes at least, is it has Simcoe. It's hopped with
Hmm.
Simcoe, which is very high alpha acid and gets you that piney resinous notes to it. Um, and that was probably one of the most popular, like the top three hops when we were in the heat of the West Coast IPA trend.
Definitely.
And then
Yeah.
beyond that,
Cascade,
the other ones
Centennial,
are
Simcoe. Yeah.
yeah. Beyond that, we're also looking at El Dorado and Equinaut. So very juicy, friendly, fruity hop varietals.
And yet it finishes so clean and so bright and so bitter. It's certainly not, baby's first IPA. Like, this definitely has enough bitterness to scare some people, but it's pretty darn friendly too. And I appreciate how clean it finishes, because this was something I was getting to kind of when you came back. Now that I'm able to, sit on a patio and drink pints again, I'm not going to name names, but I'm surprised how many hazy IPAs I get like 2 pints in, and it's the sweetness that gets me. I miss the bitterness, being able to clean up the sugar. And, when I'm just having, half a can and talking to a camera for an hour, I don't really notice how much that sweetness builds. But I won't name names, but there's been some IPAs lately where I get to my second pint and it's like, I really don't want another one of these, and it's the sugar that's getting me. With this, I think the bitterness actually it cleans up well enough that I don't really worry about that so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is incredibly well attenuated. There's little to no sweetness remaining on the back end of that. And I think that we might have talked before about how, my very core belief is that, hazy IPAs came about when West Coast IPAs became too hoppy and too bitter. And so then people wanted something that was a reaction to that, which became more fruit, less bitterness. And now the pendulum is swinging back the other way towards the hazy and juicy IPAs. And now that is becoming too saccharine in a very literal way, and it doesn't have enough edges. Now that's swinging back the other way again into a place where now West Coast IPAs are acceptable again. And
about
I
damn
think that
time.
yeah, I think that this fits that model absolutely perfectly, and I think that's really a testament to the skill of the Steel and Oak brewers and that kind of long view in the recipe creation, rather than just saying what's going to work this month.
Although, I sometimes like the styles that last a month or two. Remember the very brief window where Brute IPA was a thing? I liked Brute IPA.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I really liked White IPA until everyone decided pretty much at exactly the same time that White IPA was something no one ever wanted to drink again. And the style went from like almost overtaking IPA in the height of the summer to just literally disappearing overnight. And then basically coming back as Hazy IPA, but they didn't call it White IPA, so screw it, it was fine.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating.
I find this very funny. On that very note, Strange Fellows Guardian IPA, which I think we did in an earlier tasting.
We did. We did the whole Strange Fellows lineup.
Yeah, Guardian used to be known as a White IPA, and then was either changed or rebranded to be Hazy IPA instead.
Oh, that's actually very funny. I like that.
Yeah.
So for you, you're I know which side I'm going to come down on these. But for you, Grant, you're the Steel and Oak fan. Which side do you come down on? Are you vibrant things, shiny things, or another Steel and Oak beer that we don't get here, but you're so cool that you get to buy it all the time?
Unfortunately, that particularly with not being able to go to BC lately, that's been less of a choice than it has been historically. While I am a really, really big fan of the Simple Things Pilsner, that just, again, unfortunately sold out before we were able to get it onto the tasting. I really, really like that one, and I have a ton of respect for that one. But you know what? Shiny Things is just so good.
Yeah, that's going to be my pick too. The vibrant thing is cool, but the shiny things is just exactly the type of IPA I want to drink right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's a little.
And Kevin immediately splits. Sorry, Kevin immediately came back and said, no, Shiny Things is fine, but it's old-fashioned and solid, and Vibrant Things is different and interesting. He's not wrong.
No, I mean, I don't think that either beer is bad by any stretch. I think they're both very good beers. There's certainly something for everybody in both of those, or reasons to like both, perhaps is a better way to phrase that.
Now, are we going to see more Steel and Oak, or is this one of those we might even see less? They're able to sell beer at the tap room and everything else now.
That's a really solid question. I am sitting in the audience with you on that one.
Okay,
Kind
that's fair.
of it all went was I got a text from, or I started a conversation with my boss who said, "Oh yeah, no, I was talking to Steel and Oak, and we might be able to get some beer into Alberta again." And immediately, I was 10 years old. It was Christmas. My excitement was palpable. I texted all of my friends like, "Oh my god, you have to buy all of this now! It's crazy." Um, but yeah, so my enthusiasm for these certainly makes me hope that this will be a continuing thing. But I also understand, the thing with Steel and Oak is that they've always been about New Westminster first, about making sure that their home market has enough beer before they go anywhere else. And perhaps also as a continuation of that, they have so much respect for their own beer that they feel that this was one of the reasons that I was given why they left Alberta in the first place was that they didn't feel that they had the same quality control in Alberta as they do in BC. Because in BC, if people are mistreating their beer and, maybe warm storing it, or if it's sitting on a shelf for too long, or this, that, the other, they just can kind of like, okay, well, we're not just going to sell you we're just not going to sell you the beer anymore because we don't want that representation of our brand out in the market. Versus in Alberta, it's a little bit more wild, wild west with Liquor Connect and just anybody be able to order it from, high level to Waterton Lake,
If only there was an agent who wasn't too cheap to allocate the beer. Because there's no way you're hitting 1,000 cases a year on this, Grant. I know you're not. They don't give you 1,000 cases a year. And also, you and I are sitting on an island alone. The entire crowd is like on Team Vibrant Things, 100%. So, yeah, it is you and I on Team Shiny Things. And the supply shortages are not just with like Steel and Oak. I was at Cabin yesterday. There is no Cabin core beer, so no Supersat, no Sunshine Rain, no Zen Garden, no Retrospectrum. I can get Luminosity, but I even went to Cabin yesterday. So Connect's completely sold out. I went to Cabin. Wow. I got 5 flats of the Cool As. I got the new seasonal, but I was like, hey, I know my seasonal buys are usually based on how much of the core beers I can get. Can I get some Retrospectrum and Superset? No, there isn't any. They have no cores. It's crazy. My Cabin selection looks like a bomb hit it. I mean, on the other hand, we now can get AleSmith, and I have shelf spots for those now. And I'm all about AleSmith. That's going to be a tasting coming soon. But yeah, the audience is very much on Team Vibrant. But
I think it's a great beer as well. Like I'm not going to say that they're wrong. I just know that if I have the choice between the two, I know I can get Shiny Things year round. So I can reliably get that on a patio somewhere. Versus Vibrant Things is generally only around for the summer. It's better to not have your heart broken in that way.
That's fair. Let's move on to the Ile Sauvage Brumeau or Brumeau. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It means foggy or misty or hazy in French, so that's fun. Sour IPA with Amarillo, Eldorado, and Mosaic. Sour with Brettanomyces or like a kettle sour?
So these are all going to be soured in their foeders. Okay. So specifically what's going on with this one is it is Hazy IPA with all the hops that you just mentioned. And then they blend in 20% of their just golden sour, their foeder aged golden sour into it. And so that's where the sourness is actually coming from, is from the foeder aged beer blended into the Hazy IPA.
I know this is the Steel and Oak tasting, but I gotta say, maybe we shouldn't have put the Ile Sauvage right after the Steel and Oak. Because I'm all about this. I am really all about this. Or Ile Sauvage.
Yeah, I mean, Ile Sauvage, if they, I believe this in a very real way, that if they did more beers that weren't just soured, and they entered like the Canadian Brewing Awards, they could probably, have a pretty good shot at Brewery of the Year. But as it stands, most of theirs have to go into a very limited amount of specialty categories, which kind of kneecaps them on that front. But the beer is so good.
You know what? That reminds me of True de Diable from Shawinigan, like quite sharply. But I think it's actually better than True de Diable. And for years, I said True de Diable was Canada's best brewery. Now things are very different. You know, Alberta really exists now beyond Wild Rose. This is magnificent. I love this.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They're just quietly plucking away, making some fantastic beers over there. And I think part of what a lot of what they do beyond this, we could do an entire tasting just dedicated to Il Sauvage.
On our budget, we can't, but all
but
right.
A lot of what they do beyond this is just fruited sour beers, and a lot coming out of those fooders again. And they're just trying to get like the freshest fruit that they can, and so like their raspberry sour is just like the same fooder aged golden sour, just with just a metric crap load of raspberries thrown on top of it, and my heart skips all of the beats whenever I have that raspberry.
Yeah, and it doesn't stick around and connect very long, I'll say that. Like, we order it when we see it, but it is not around long.
Yeah, there were also some issues with, apparently they weren't able to source the raspberries for the raspberry beer for some time. So we did have a period where it was unavailable. I believe it should be more available, more reliably in stock now.
Chris asked about fooders. Fooders are French oak open-topped fermenters that basically, you can put a lid on them as well. But basically, they allow you to create a microculture of bacteria and yeasts that will live in the oak, and it basically becomes a really nice way to ensure you're getting a pretty consistent, naturally occurring sourness on a beer without having to artificially inoculate it. If you're going for a gentle sourness, you can put already soured beers into a foeder, but if you're trying to make like a beer with just a touch of oak and a bit of microoxygenation, maybe some wild yeast, a foeder is a really nice way to do it. You can also leave a beer in a foeder for a very, very long time and it will become quite sour. Degard Brewing out of Tillamook makes beers very much like that. I love Degard.
So good.
Have you been to that giant, stupid Zeppelin hangar that's like right across the street?
No, I never actually got to go down to Degard while I was in Portland, unfortunately. I just had to go to a bottle shop in Portland and raid the shelf.
I went to an event hosted by a friend of mine called Pringles Fest, and we drank Degard at Degard, and we tasted every single flavor of Pringles ever made in any corner of the globe, including chocolate and fried chicken and shrimp cocktail and all sorts of nightmarish flavors. But the beer was very good, and I did go and explore the giant Zeppelin thing, so that was cool. But yeah, sadly never going to come here, but Degard's brilliant.
Absolutely. There's a couple of breweries that we used to bring in U.S. beers back in the day, but have since stopped. Degard was one of those ones that if they would have ever agreed to come up, I would have loved to have brought them up. Upright also was one of my favorites that we brought in from the U.S.
I've been Upright. It's a crazy space. It's just this weird basement of an office building, and you walk in and it's just like this one dude spinning some records and pouring off these 5 unlabeled taps, and there's like some benches, and most people are just standing in the brewery drinking beer, like on the concrete next to the fermenters. Oh yeah,
they have actually renovated it
that's
pretty
a shame.
Recently, and I think that they've actually standardized their hours a bit more.
You mean so that it's not just like
cardboard
like
sign that says whenever we feel like it.
Yeah. No, if you've never been to Upright, you walk into this completely anonymous looking like 4-story office building, and you walk over to the elevator, you go down to the basement, you walk down this super generic hallway through a very standard door, and then you're in this like crazy craft brewery. You walk past like the in-house gym for all the people who work upstairs in the offices on your way to like this brewery. It's extremely Portland. I really like Upright.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, fortunately, at this moment, we're starting to get in Canada more breweries that are kind of chasing after that same ideal of that farmhouse style brewery, or doing more wild cultures. With Il Sauvage in Victoria, obviously, and with Trial and Ale in Edmonton, and then if we go over to the other coast, we're looking at oh goodness, I've just forgotten their name. Yep. No, it was with me, and then it went away.
Farmhouse Ale Brewer, East Coast.
Yeah.
Two Crows?
I mean, they did the Glau beer, and they did. Why can't I remember this? Anyway, I'm just going to embarrass myself with how little I can remember.
That's fine.
But
we'll get back to it.
Fantastic beer. Absolutely fantastic.
I will say, I've also noticed, like, I know we just got AleSmith this morning, and I'm all giddy about that, but I have noticed, like, more U.S. breweries starting to trickle in again, because...
Still well. It's still well. There you go. You got it. Yep.
Which is distinct from Stillwater, which is also an excellent brewery, but not in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. They're, like, one of the very few really great breweries out of, like, the deep south in the U.S. They're out of, like, Missouri or Alabama or something. I can't remember.
Is it that far south?
Yeah, I swear Stillwater's that far south.
Well, they still have a lot of really restrictive, almost like prohibition era laws in a lot of like the southern U.S. that have prevented
like Jester King?
craft breweries from opening.
Yeah.
Like don't I remember I think it was Alabama, they have what was it called, Back 40?
Yes.
All of their beers had to be under a certain percentage because their county regulations said that you couldn't brew anything more than 5% or 5.5% or whatever.
Jester
it was.
King had that forever too. Yeah, that's why they made like Le Petit Prince and all that really cool stuff that was all super low alcohol, which we could actually get here for like a few months, 1 year, and then it never came back because it was expensive and nobody bought it. But I bought it. I liked the Jester King stuff. I thought it was great. So did wild cultured beer originate from anywhere specifically? Yes and no. No, in the sense that originally wild culture beer was the only type of beer there was. You only got wild culture beer because we didn't know what, cultured yeast was. You just left your beer outside, or you put in a piece of stale bread, or you did something and eventually it would ferment. But let's skip forward to,
the late 1800s that we actually started seeing Louis Pasteur and culturing yeast and sanitization.
Yes, exactly. And individual ale houses, when you poured it into their barrels, which were up above the bar, that had their own microflora. So, each barrel would have its own specific flavor, and every bar would taste different from every other one. And, if you went to a place that was very, very busy, the beer would taste reasonably clean. Whereas if you went to a place that was very, very slow, the beer would taste very earthy in a way. But let's talk about like modern times, post Louis Pasteur. Wild ferment beers were really popular up until the Second World War. But after the Second World War, things like Belgian Gose, a lot of the saisons from France and Belgium, Gose, a lot of the wild ferment beers and a lot of the sour beers started to die off. And they very nearly died out, or in some cases actually did die out completely by the 1980s or 1990s. And it's only been kind of post-2000, post-2010 that these beers have really started to be revived. So we had a really amazing culture for making crazy wild ferment beers basically in every country. And then the great lagerization, Bud Lighting of the world happened, and they basically all died off and are only now being resurrected, which is a shame. We're going to talk about what we got coming up here real quick, which will be incredibly boring for Grant and also for some of you, but I have to do it anyway, so we're going to do that. Coming up this Friday, we have barbecue beers. Stuff for this bloody impossible heat wave that just refuses to go away and is just driving us all bloody nuts. Well, you know what? We're going to drink our blues away with a little bit of ice cold white and rosé, and one of the very few reds I actually like with this heat. It isn't kind of like Brockseller's Love Red that I can kind of chill. No, we're going to serve a proper room temperature red. We're going to serve it room temperature, but it's actually going to work with this heat. I say all that, it's going to be pouring rain on Friday afternoon, isn't it? But let's work what we got here. We're going to do two Spanish whites. One from Alta Ayer, which is from the East Coast pardon me, the east coast of Spain on the Mediterranean. This is predominantly Xarel·lo, I believe. Let's say, no it doesn't, but I'm 99% sure this is Xarel·lo, which is one of the cava grape varieties. Grown in a very hot climate, grown on crusty, hard soils, but ends up being very, very high acid, very fresh, very bright. This is kind of not quite Vino Verde-esque, but in that same range. On the other hand, coming from the west coast of Spain, this is from the Rías Baixas, which is the region just north of Portugal. There's a little tiny stub of Spain that sticks out above the northern border of Portugal. This is from there. This is bright, fresh, clean, zippy. It's from the coldest part of Spain. It's getting those cold Atlantic breezes. This is actually one of my favorite wines in the store for hot weather. And because nobody really knows what the heck it is, it doesn't sell very fast, which is part of why we're tasting it. Switching gears a little bit, we're going to do a rosé from a very hot country. I think most people who are watching will be familiar with Magello. We've sold it for probably 25 years. They're from Coonawarra, Australia. They mostly make big chunky reds. They also have a less expensive red called the Musician that we sell a lot of. This is their Melody Rosé. Really different version of rosé. It's a little thicker, it's a little richer, it's got a little more residual sweetness, but it's big and it's chunky. Like it's almost the light red we're doing chilled instead of the Nota Pernaro. And then Nota Pernaro. The first red wine I ever loved when I worked here, probably the first red wine I ever bought for myself to drink when I was 19. I can remember drinking this in my friend's house with his parents' wine glasses when I was 19. I just started working here, sort of thing. This is a wine I've loved forever. And I think it's a beautiful barbecue wine because it's a 2011 version. So this is already well aged. It's already very soft. It pours pale ruby in color. If you haven't had a really well aged Negro Amaro, this is magic in a glass. This is something I've loved literally since I tasted it 20 odd years ago. It's something I still love. So we're going to taste that. Beer next week on the Wednesday. We're doing Omnipollo. This is a brewery that's probably taken an oddly long time for us to get around to. But we noticed they actually had 3 different beers in Connect right now. So we're going to do the 3 Omnipollo beers. Now this is a Swedish brewer. I didn't say brewery, you'll note. They don't have a brewery. They tend to jump around brewery to brewery. All of these were brewed at Brunswick in Toronto. They have an oat pale ale, a Swedish New England India pale ale. That's a lot of geography for one sentence. And then finally the Bianco, which is their mango lassi goza. These guys are consistently rated in the top 10 brewers in the world. These are all made at the Canadian Brew House. Super, super neat beers. Really excited to pour them. But of course, we need 4. And at the same time, Driftwood brought out a brand new breaded Saison, which I'm excited to taste because anytime Driftwood does something new, it's usually pretty good. And a breaded Saison, how do you really go wrong? So that's what we got coming up this Friday and next Wednesday. And then for the wine tasting, we're going to take another 2-3 weeks off where I'll be very honest, we're kind of struggling to sell the wine tastings this time of year. So we're certainly not going to be doing them every week for the next little bit. So let's move right along into the absolutely fantastic, and I think much better than the last version, Love Buzz. Because I really like this version of Love Buzz. I liked the last one. It was great. This is fantastic. This is like Two Crows Jamboree, but way better.
That's high praise.
I really like Jamboree, but this is so good.
So Strathcona Love Buzz. So we've seen, I want to say about 5 or 6 different iterations of this since Christmas. So strawberry guava, a little bit of lactose to it. Well, probably not so little amount of lactose to it.
There's probably a lot.
I hate to say guilty pleasure fruited sour, but it's big, it's bombastic, it's friendly for the sun and the heat. It's exactly what people want here. When it's
I shamelessly like this. Screw any guilt. No, I'm right into this. I don't think there's any such thing as proving your craft beer chops. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If I happen to like this, I'm going to drink that all night and screw anybody who thinks any different. No. I'm all about this.
I used to feel a very similar way for as a youth, just kind of cutting my teeth for craft beer, that I wasn't allowed to like certain things, but that's completely gone away now. It's just, what do you like? What's floating your boat? And if you got it, flaunt it, Strathcona.
And they really do. Like, this is strawberry's so hard to nail down, and we've talked about this before, you and I, but strawberry's really hard to nail down. It either comes off as either fake, or it just disappears, or it tastes watery. This genuinely tastes very much like fresh strawberry. Maybe it falls a little on the candy side, but not much. And then the guava's right there. Like, craft beer over the last 12 months has really taught me what guava tastes like. I honestly don't know if I could tell you what a guava tasted like without a beer context, but I've had enough guava beers now that I have a pretty good idea what to expect.
And I'm very excited because also Strathcona, just in the last couple of days, announced what the next version of Love Buzz is going to be as well, because they're always on the next one,
Do we get to know?
So, oh yeah. It was posted on their Instagram, so it's public knowledge now. We're looking at it was a raspberry mango.
Oh yeah, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
Are they using green mangoes?
I wish I could tell you on that front, but the spec sheet hasn't landed in front of me yet.
But yeah, we're talking about that heat wave a little bit ago. Our poor beer fridge. I mean, one, we apparently need a whole new condenser because the heat has completely screwed the one on our roof that's 25 years old or whatever it is. That poor thing's on its last legs, so that's going to need replaced, and oh, that's going to be so much money. But more than that, we got just cleaned out this last week. Like, we came in on Monday morning, and we walked in the beer fridge, and there was just like nothing. Like, there was the proverbial tumbleweed. There was just like one or two of everything at the front of the shelf and no stock behind, nothing sitting on the floor, nothing left. I had enough weight on our van coming back from Calgary yesterday. I blew the power steering pump trying to turn the wheels. Yeah, like it's nuts. Like, I think we probably brought in 16 or 18,000 in beer from Connect this week, plus another 10 that I brought down from Calgary. If anyone from the Ministry of Transportation is listening, none of that happened. But no, it's been nuts with this heat, just nuts. And like I said, we can't get any cabin cores. We can't get half the stuff from 88 right now. Like, it's just madness. I mean, it's cool, but it's madness.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. It's we ended up this week just dragging out this huge AC unit to throw into our window because inside of our house it was 33 degrees and it was just unbearable. I know you're not supposed to walk your dogs after like 20 something degrees, and it was more than that inside the house. And so our poor dog was just like trying to just keep cool by hiding under our bed in the basement and like
God, poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Oh, we've seen his dog. Another time, just more dog. We just want all the dog content.
You just want to see more Sisu. I think he's actually gone back under the bed right now.
Don't blame him. It's hot today too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where do I want to come down on rankings? I think I need to put the Brumeau first. Oh, you're not gonna like this, Grant. I'm gonna go with that first, and then the sour. And then I'm going to put the two steel notes at the end, and I'm sorry, I have to, because I really like these. I know I am, and I didn't mean to. I really thought when I tasted this was going to carry the night, because I really like it. But that's just silly, and that's probably my favorite beer I've had in like a couple of months, at least that I've had on camera. That's really screamingly good.
I'm glad to hear. Yeah, I'm really happy with that as well. That's I mean, you can come to expect a certain amount of quality from Il Sauvage, but that is, I think they really nailed it with that one.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Grant. We shall talk to you again. And I'll see you around. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you later.
Cheers. We'll see you later.
Wait. We need to get him on the thingy.
There he is.
There you go.
See you guys.
Here we go.
See you. And good night to all of you as well. have yourselves a wonderful week. We will see you either Friday for the wine tasting or next week for Omnipolo. With Andrew Hilton Wine and Spirits, I'm Kyle. Wonderful night, everyone.